Welcome to the Cowboy Up Podcast. My name is Steve Clausen, and I'm sitting here with the brains of the outfit, Russell True, and we're coming at you from White Stallion Ranch in Tucson, Arizona. I'm excited to be here. How are you today, Russell?
I'm good. And we're talking to a great guy, just one of the people that, it's not a big list. It's an important list of people that keep dude ranching out in front of people. And if people have ever even thought about a dude ranch, some of those are going to have a negative impression. It's going to be beans and bacon, bad beds, and people from the movie Deliverance, you know, and it's, they're scared. And so that we're not on their list for a vacation. So we've got to get, we're a tiny segment of hospitality. We're an important one, we think. But so we need people like John to get the story out and show people that A, we're diverse, B, we're high quality, and C, we're really authentic. It's a very real experience. And John, through his show, great Western guest ranches and how many have you done, John? Welcome, by the way.
We've done about 65 great guest ranches in North America in the series, and it just keeps growing every year.
Well, it sounds to me like you're doing something right, and I've seen your show, and you definitely take everything with dude ranching and guest ranches to an entirely different level, and you actually tell the truth.
Yeah, well, we don't walk through it and tell you here's what you'll eat, here's where you'll sleep, here's what you'll do type of thing. We let the ranch define, here's the most important thing I want viewers to take away from, our story here. So each ranch defines, the key takeaway messages, and that's what we shoot for. That's what we edit for, to bring out those messages, so that everyone it's not a cookie cutter formula show. Everyone is very unique, to that particular ranch and brings out its personality, and that seems to resonate with viewers, and there's something for everybody there. People always ask us which one we like the best, and it's such a hard question because every ranch experience is different. It's customized and personalized. It really depends on what resonates with the guest.
Well, before I, along with Jay Wells, my partner, started this crazy venture where we own and operate some other ranches beside the home ranch White Stallion. People would say, Russell, we want to go somewhere in the summer, we want to go this or that, and what's your recommendation? And just like you, I'd say, well, what do you want? Where do you want to go? You want big? You want small? You want what level of comfort do you want? What are the experiences that are really driving you?
Exactly.
Because it's a different answer. And
it is.
There's loads of right answers, but not for that person. There's maybe, a few, because we can narrow it down and get them, and save them a lot of research.
Yeah. And get them to do at least a good starting point. Now, John, I've got to think, given what you do now, you must have been raised around horses and that sort of thing. So tell me about that.
Well, actually, I grew up in the suburbs with a house and a driveway and another house and another driveway. But my family had a summer home at a lake in Pennsylvania. So as soon as school was out for the year, we'd head out to the lake and spend our summers there. And there was a riding stable at the lake. And the kid across the street and I used to just hang around there, for something to do and kill time. And one day the owner comes over to us and hands us each a pitchfork and says, "Here, you guys can clean stalls." And we went, yes, touchdown. This is the greatest day of our lives, our tender little lives. We can clean stalls. We're in, and we didn't even think about asking for compensation. We were just thrilled. So we were cleaning stalls for a while, and that kind of graduated to brushing horses out and cooling them out or getting them saddled for a trail ride. And, after a couple of months of this, they trusted us enough to go out on trail rides with them. And so by the time I was out of high school, I had a few thousand hours in the saddle. The university I went to had an accredited horseback riding program, and I was able to get a job teaching horsemanship, English and Western riding there, and I did that for 2 years while I was going to college. And I bought a horse while I was in college, and that kind of began the slippery slope of horse ownership and dragged me into it big time. I suppose it must have been in my DNA somewhere. But, I often think if my family didn't have that summer home at the lake, I'd probably be sitting on a sofa eating a bag of Doritos, watching sports events or something on TV. But, it's kind of consumed my life now. So.
Well, we moved here from California, and the area of California that we lived in was in an area where there were a lot of horses, and that was my first experience when I was adult with horses, and it really it developed a love in me for the animals and being around the animals. It's just something very calming about that. Every time I'm here at White Stallion, one of the first things I do is I visit the stable and rub at least one horse nose. It just calms me down dramatically, and it's really a pretty remarkable experience.
Yeah, it is.
So you now talk about guest ranches, and like I said, it's just a big shift, but not really. I mean, from what you did from when you were young and you started off cleaning stalls and you worked your way through, now all of a sudden you're working and you're talking about dude ranches. Tell us about that.
Well, I spent over 2 decades in the wireless industry, building out wireless networks and operating in fraud prevention, everything operational in the cellular carrier. And about the year 2000 or so, it stopped being fun. All of the entrepreneurial wireless companies got eaten up by Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile and so forth, and they all morphed back into the phone company. And I was watching a TV program one day, and there was a girl riding a Grand Prix dressage test, which is the highest form of equitation. And whoever produced it put this plunky bluegrass banjo, old McDonald farm music with it. It was hideous. I mean, it was like watching ballet to rap music or something. It just didn't make sense,
Wow. That'd be a two-time loser for me.
Really. And so I was talking with a friend of mine who was a radio personality, professional voice talent in the Dallas area, and he was also in the horses. And we had a conversation about how poor horse programming generally was. And we came to the same conclusion, that it was produced by people who really didn't know horses. They might have been videographers or wedding videographers or something, but they didn't know horses, so they didn't know what they were filming. So we started doing what we affectionately called farm tapes, and they were basically very slick, professional half-hour tapes on a particular horse farm and why they were attracted to this breed, what they've learned about the breed, what their goals and objectives are as a steward of the breed, and so forth. And we told it from a knowledgeable perspective about horses. We know what people want to see. We know what they don't want to see. And so when people got word that we were doing this, people were just calling us up and saying, I don't care what it costs. I need a good farm tape to promote my farm. So after we had about 36 of these, I guess, we thought, let's get this into distribution. I mean, we're doing it for the farm right now, and they're sending out DVDs and so forth to prospective clients, but let's get this on TV. And if you have finished, well-produced content, it's fairly easy to license.
Okay. I'm gonna stop you real quick. I'm sorry. We're getting this is actually going to be for this. That's perfect content, but for the second segment.
Okay. So we'll just stop and.
Okay. Where I'd like you to go, John, now is after high school, and you started to get into working. I'm going to lead you to the point where. So you work with guest ranches. Tell me about one of your experiences, and I want you to kind of lead me up fairly rapidly to the you talk to a day trader, and then we're going to call it right there for the first segment. Is that okay with you?
Help me clarify this. Where do you want to start and where do you want to
end? You talked about you went to college.
And then he was in the cell industry.
Right. Then you were in the cell industry.
Then he was doing the farm tapes.
Right. And I want you to go from the farm tapes to talking about dude ranches.
Okay. But the farm tapes is where it's don't care what it costs. I'm in. So
I understand that, but this is kind of what he did on the original tape, and I'm trying to be true to that so we don't have to redo the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what he's supposed to do.
Okay, what I want you to do now, Jonas, I want you to go from the cell industry, and I want you to transition to working with dude ranches, and I'm going to ask you, so tell me a story about something you did with the dude ranch, and then we're going to end it at the guy that
and then we're going to stop.
We're going to stop there.
Right. Okay, let's go ahead and go. Okay. We're recording.
Okay, so once you got out of college, John, what happened then? What led you to doing dude ranches and guest ranches? Because I think that's really an interesting transition.
Yeah, we had gone to a dude ranch as guests, and we came away from it thinking this is the best family adventure that a family could have together. But the guest ranches, they have to compete for people's free vacation time. So they compete against Disney, they compete against theme parks, they compete against cruise lines, all which have billions of dollars in marketing budgets. Okay, and the ranches cannot compete at that level. So we thought, why don't we do a series on guest ranches here and help the guest ranches get more visibility, get their story out, and share the kind of experiences you can have at it. Because I think when people get together and plan a family vacation for the summer, they come up with a typical thing. Well, shall we go to a Disney, or shall we go to a theme park or something like that?
Yeah.
So we wanted to put it back on people's radar. The movie City Slickers is probably 30 years old now, but it kind of put the experience, on the movie screens.
Sure did. You bet it did.
And it did wonders. Every ranch would tell us they had banner years after that came out. But that's been 1991, I think, is when that movie came out. It's a long time ago. But we wanted to kind of continue that and keep the guest ranch experience in front of people, and allow the ranches to share their story, share their experience. And everyone is different. When we first started it, we had a little concern that they're all going to look the same: scenery, horseback riding, rustic accommodations. And we discovered, it was anything but. Every ranch has its own personality. Part of that's the ownership. Part of that's the staff, the wranglers. Even the guests, create a personality there. And I don't think we've ever met anybody who wasn't having the time of their life. The guest ranches enjoy a very high repeat guest rate. Somewhere around 70%, I think, is probably the figure that gets quoted. But I mean, who goes back to Disney, 30 times?
Yeah.
We've just met people who go back and they say it feels like home, to them. And I understand that. They get there and they can just shed off that digital lifestyle and get in touch with nature and friends and family, again. And reconnect with what's really important in life. We like to say, people find their humanity again at a guest ranch.
So you've definitely seen some converts.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell me about that.
We were filming one ranch in Wyoming, and as I mentioned, the guests all arrive on a Sunday. And we had gotten there about 3:00 in the afternoon, and there was a gentleman there straight out of New York City, and he and his daughter were having a father-daughter week there at the ranch. And she grew up in New York City, but now she lived in Oregon, so, she different environment. But anyway, he got there, and I guess he is a day trader or something. He used to be a police officer, but first thing he notices, there's no internet, there's no cell service, there's no TV. He was saying, we got to get back to Denver. We got to find another place. And I told him, I said, that's kind of part of the experience. I said, why don't you give it a chance? I said, I think you and your daughter would, really find this enjoyable. So he says, okay, I'll give it a chance. But he says, keep the car running, in case we have to make a dash for Denver, literally. So by Tuesday, he's sitting out, the river kind of flowed through there peacefully. And he's sitting there in a chaise lounge reading a book. And he calls his daughter over and he says, you got to get a hold of your brother and his family and and make arrangements for next year. We're all coming back here next year.
Perfect.
He was sold on it, but they truly are transformational. We like to say, people find their humanity again at a guest ranch. They truly do. They shake off that digital lifestyle and find out what's, really important. The kids can go off and do their thing during the day. The parents can go off and do their thing, and they get back at lunch or dinner and they compare notes, about what each party did. I've been to restaurants and you see a family of four sitting in a booth and every one of them staring at their phone, sending text messages across the table. And but you don't see that mercifully at a guest ranch. So they really are. They really change people for the better.
I was working with a company for a few years, two maybe, and their whole theme, they weren't successful ultimately, but it was for other reasons. But their whole theme was to get people into nature, whether it was just a mountain cabin where they sit on the porch and watch nature, or if they go do a dude ranch or whatever, all the river trips, etc. And they had all kinds of statistics and studies and of course just an underlying general philosophy that nature was really, really good for people, and that a lot of the problems, mentally, physically, chronic illness, etc., was the absence of nature in everyday life. And I'm sure, like most things, the carpenter thinks a hammer solves all problems. I'm sure they probably took it a little farther than maybe it should have, but nature is a big deal in dude ranches. If they're not focused on nature, they're not a dude ranch. So it's just inherent, really.
Yeah, people get out of their gray cubicle and under fluorescent lights, and they get out and, hear the birds chirp and they see a chipmunk or squirrel or a moose, and, they just reconnect with nature. I think that's an important part of, a well-rounded person, is to have an appreciation with nature, but they don't get that experience, in other theme parks and, things like that. It's kind of unique to guest ranches.
Okay. John, we're going to go to a quick break here. When I get back, I want to ask you, and I'll give you a second to think about this, what the heck was wrong with your thinking when you thought that a TV production company talking about horses and horse breeds and disciplines and sports and travel would work? Because that's a very interesting thought process. Okay, when we get back.
And thank you, Stephen, Russell, and John. And John, I'm very much like you. My name is Stan Hustad, and it was about 5 years ago, after a long career in broadcasting and in performance coaching, that I said to my good friend Russell, you met me when you heard me on the radio, and now I'm really going to encourage you to start getting involved in this podcasting. Well, I talked about that, and then finally he said, Stan, I'll give this podcasting thing a try just so you'll stop nagging me about it. And that, of course, was about 5 seasons ago, and it's going strong, and it is one of the best things that we can do at the White Stallion Ranch to keep you informed of the Western way of life and all of the good things that can come to you when we perhaps try and figure out a little bit of the cowboy experience, the Western way, of the traditional values that come from them. Well, we're going to continue to do this throughout 25, and we have an opportunity. The Cowboy Spirit Radio Network has been created, and Russell's a part of that, along with a number of people who've said, we believe that there is a place for more of these good programs, not only on the television, but of course this new media which has exploded and was such a big factor in the current U.S. election, the world of podcasting. So perhaps you would like to be a part of that world. You've got stories to tell, you've got songs to sing, you've got maybe some good stuff to offer and sell to people. we would like very much to help you, perhaps in 25, get you on the radio, help you build your business, grow your cause, make your mark in the marketplace. So why don't you reach out to me if you might want to be on the radio? Here we go. Just very simple. stanhustad@gmail.com. Okay, let me say that once again. stanhustad@gmail.com. And we'll get you on the radio. And speaking of the radio, let's get back to the program.
Okay, now, John, before we went to break, I told you I was going to ask you, what the heck gave you the idea that television show that was really largely, I think, unscripted? You talk about horses and horse breeds and discipline and travel and that sort of thing. What gave you the thought that that might actually work and be successful?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I spent the early part of my career, about 25 years, in the wireless industry as an executive, building out networks, operating them, billing systems, fraud prevention, literally every aspect of a wireless carrier. And in the 80s, it was fast and furious. It was an exciting place to be. But by about the year 2000, all of the entrepreneurial wireless companies got eaten up by AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, and they all became the telephone company again. So I happened to be watching a TV show one day, and it was a girl riding a Grand Prix dressage test. And Grand Prix is the highest form of equitation. It's like what ballet is to dancing, okay, as a comparison. And they had this horrible, plunky, bluegrass, banjo, old MacDonald farm music with it. It was like watching ballet to heavy metal music, okay? It just didn't make sense. And I thought, whoever produced this said, oh, there is a horse in it, therefore we need corny farm music with it. Not realizing what they were looking at. You know, this was art. You know, it wasn't something that was corny or to be made fun of. So a good friend of mine who was also in horses, and he was a radio personality in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, we were talking about the state of the art of horse programming, and we both agreed that most of it was pretty crummy because it wasn't produced by people who knew anything about horses. Okay. So he and I started doing what we affectionately called farm tapes, and it was basically a half-hour program about an owner or a breeder. Why, with 90-some breeds of horses in North America, did they select this breed? What they've learned about the breed, you know, what their goals and objectives are as a steward of the breed, you know, what their program is all about. And it basically gave them an opportunity to talk about their breed and why they were involved in it. And when people found out that we were doing this, people were calling us up and saying, I don't care what it costs. All that's out there are wedding videographers, and they don't know what they're looking at, you know, but you guys know horses and you know what's important, what you want to show, what you don't want to show. And so we probably produced about 36 of these, I guess. And we thought, let's get this into distribution. Well, the way that production and distribution work together, most of the time a producer scratches notes on a cocktail napkin and goes to a broadcaster and says, hey, I've got this great concept, you know, for a TV series, but their other hand is out because they need money to go produce it. Now, our clients were paying us to produce this, so we could take it to them and say, here is finished content. You can see the end product. You know, if you like it, great, license it. And so we started licensing our content in the U.S., Canada, Japan, Italy, Ireland, the U.K., and so forth. And it was, if you have finished content, it's very easy to get into to broadcast because there's no risk for the broadcaster. It's just negotiating, you know, your price for licensing it. So then it really took. Yeah, well, my friend and I started doing very slick professional half-hour productions on people with who were attracted to a particular breed and had a program going. And, within that, we learned why they were attracted to a particular breed. There are over 90 some breeds just in North America. What attracted them to their breed of preference? What have they learned about the breed? What do they want to accomplish as stewards of the breed, in their lifetime? And, it was very much understanding a breed from the owner's experience, and what they've learned. We don't go in and say this is a great breed because it does this, and this. You hear it from the owners and what they've learned firsthand, about the breed. So word got out that we were doing these, and that kind of took off. And after we had done about 3 dozen of these, we started thinking about, let's get this in the broadcast. And it's not difficult if you have finished, completed content that a broadcaster can literally air the next day. It's a relatively easy process to get it into broadcast. Most broadcasts starts off where somebody goes with a concept written on a cocktail napkin, and they need money to go produce it. And it's very risky all the way around. But we can go with finished, produced content. They can see what it is. And we wound up licensing it in the U.S., Canada, Japan, Italy, Germany, all around the world. For that, and that kind of took off. And then we branched off into Great Western guest ranches to do something to help bolster and support the guest ranch industry.
Where do we? And that is 65 episodes. Where do they watch that? Where can they get Great Western guest ranches?
Okay, we're carried on Roku under Horse TV Global is the channel. We're also carried on Amazon Fire TV. Those are global internet channels. And we have about 500 of our episodes on YouTube that people can watch if they don't have Roku or an Amazon Fire Stick.
500?
Well, yeah, we actually have almost 1,000 total episodes in our library, and about half of them we have on YouTube. We keep uploading a couple every week to YouTube. People can view it there if they don't have Roku. On Roku and Amazon Fire, we kind of rotate the content so that there's always something new and exciting for people to tune into. It's not the same old, menu every time they go on there.
And I don't even begin now to comprehend, because you got the legacy stuff, the networks, and then you've got the cable stuff, and then you've got streaming. And so, how many people is it countable? How many people have seen these guest ranch shows?
It is on YouTube. YouTube gives you very good detailed stats, and we have over 12 million views.
Remarkable.
I think was the most recent one about a week ago. Amazon Fire and Fire TV and Roku measure things in bandwidth. Okay, so it's like a big bucket of water. It's hard to, segment it out and do analytics on it and everything. You just get one lump sum of how much bandwidth was consumed. But we kind of use YouTube as a barometer of how many actual views, which programs, are highly viewed, which ones have slow viewership. Their analytics are much better than what you get from your platform for Roku and whatever. But we have to believe it's some multiple of what we're seeing on the YouTube channel.
Absolutely. Wow.
Well, and John, you haven't been here for a while, and we've got to book some dates, but we've suckered you back in, and we've got some new stuff here. So we thought it was really time to hopefully talk you into coming back, and we haven't set those dates yet, but we've got you planning to come, and we've got all these new activities. Horses are still central here, but we've got some other things around that, and so we're looking forward to having you out. And I guess that's what people need to know to see your show, right? Great Western Guest Ranches and all your other shows, 1,000 of them we now know. I'm still shocked by 90 breeds are in America. I would never have guessed that number. Yeah, that's amazing. So there must be some pretty small breed registries.
Yeah, there are. If you grab the person on the street and say, name 5 horse breeds, they'll probably go thoroughbred, quarter horse, Appaloosa, and 2 others.
Maybe Arabian.
Yeah, Arabian would be in there. Yeah, paint, Pinto,
Buckskin.
and so forth. But there are some fascinating breeds out there. The gypsy horses, which came from the UK and Ireland, hit the shores about 1996 here, and their popularity has just taken off. We just did film the Gypsy Nationals, and another one up in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, gypsy farm up there. They have 60-some gypsies, but they have really taken off in popularity. They have an amazingly easygoing temperament, and I think that's, people struggle with their relationship with their breed.
That's never bad. Well, we've run out of time, but so Roku, YouTube, Amazon Fire, is that what it's called?
Fire TV.
Okay. And
beautiful.
All those places. Is there, if they want, do you have a website where they should go check things out, or? Yeah.
The TV channels are Horse TV, space, and then the word global. The website is horsetv.global.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you.
John, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me on.
I look forward to seeing you soon.
I want to meet you when you're here, too. Okay?
You got it.
Thank you, John, very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. Cowboy Up Podcast comes to an end, but we'll come back again. Join us every week right here at the White Stallion Ranch in Tucson, Arizona. And perhaps it's time for you to think about, maybe that would be a wonderful place to take a time out, maybe get in touch with nature, maybe to escape the cold and find a new beginning to a whole new life, a whole new year. Who knows what might happen? So why don't you reach out to us? Just check us out at whitestallion.com, whitestallion.com. And remember, this could be the year that perhaps you could have your own radio program. Just be in touch. stanhustad@gmail.com, stanhustad@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you. Perhaps you have an idea for a program. Perhaps you have a suggestion that would help us do it better. Perhaps you would like to be a guest, or you know somebody who could be a guest on this program. We're trying to help all of you find your way to a Western adventure, a Western experience, perhaps sharing your wisdom, insight, and truth. So reach out to us at TheCowboyUpPodcast@gmail.com, TheCowboyUpPodcast@gmail.com. And again, thank you. Thank you very much. And we go out today with another song from our good friend Greg Hager, who talks about those good things that happen, those memories that can stay with us for a long, long time.
It's snowing in the Rockies, everything is white. I think about the leaving I will do tomorrow night. I don't know when I'll return. It's not for me to say. I'd stay if I could find another way. I'm riding down to Denver. Shadows start to grow. And white, the silhouettes in the freshly falling snow. High up in the mountains, my perspective seemed so clear. quaking in the wind. I'll have the sounds of nature singing once again. Time may draw the curtain for the ending of the play, but I'll always have the memories. I'll always have the memories of today. What can draw me nearer than the need to say goodbye? Life is but a picture that is captured by the eye. Each sequence stored in places that I visit now and then. Each one takes me back. Again. In my mind I'll have the aspens quaking in the wind. I'll have the sounds of nature singing once again. Time may draw the curtain for the ending of the play, but I'll always have the memories. I'll always have the memories of today. Time may draw the curtain for the ending of the play, but I'll always have the memories. I'll always have the memories of today.